Today on Stack and Mac, in the immortal words of Kirk Douglas, we're gonna have ourselves a gut-busted, mother-loving Navy war. Crimson Tide.
Whatever, Stack. We're also going to be reviewing the beloved 90s comedy Clueless, written and directed by Amy Heckerling.
Stay tuned.
Stack and Mac. Stack and Mac. Looking back on movies.
So, Adam, what did you think of Crimson Tide?
You know, I didn't hate it. I have to say, I started watching it, and I was a little, about the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was like, man, there's some really bad dialogue in here. Like the line where Gene Hackman says, I don't trust air I can't see. And I'm thinking to myself, can anybody see air? What do you mean you can't breathe air? I mean, what a stupid line of dialogue, right?
Well, the Gene Hackman line that kind of got me was, it got really meta, because we're doing Clueless this week, and he references teenage girls. He says, might not have a brain in their heads, but they do know that everyone wants to screw them. And he didn't say screw, so not the best line.
It was not the best line. I had some issues with the film. All in all, it holds up. 25 years later, I do think that it is a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
The scenes in the submarine, the tension between Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman were really, really great, and they were well acted. My problem with the whole entire thing was it sort of structured it as if the Russians were the enemy, but then it was kind of like, dude, I hate Gene Hackman's character, so is he the enemy of the whole entire story? He had no redemptive qualities whatsoever.
So is the true enemy ourselves, right? Like, that's the whole thing, is like, war is bad, don't nuke your enemies because they'll nuke you. So I actually, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, there's this long expose about Chechnya, and yeah, we won the Cold War, but the Russians, there was the possibility that there was a coup, and now we're at DEFCON 2 or 3.
Right.
I don't know which way it goes. So yeah, having to set up the Russians that we've beaten as the enemy kind of...
Yeah.
It works now, actually, more than it did in 1995.
I agree with you. I kind of feel like the movie was maybe 25 years before its time. With a better screenwriter, they probably could have made it really, really great. And like I said, Denzel top of his game.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get a more sincere actor than Denzel Washington.
Denzel and Gene Hackman shine on screen together. Like, there's
Completely.
nobody who can match Gene Hackman and his intensity and his anger,
Right.
other than Denzel.
Right,
Washington.
and all he had was anger.
Pure and utter.
Pure and utter anger the whole entire time.
Except for when he had his dog.
Except when he had his dog. I mean, it's just, I read online that Quentin Tarantino wrote a couple of lines in it to make it more cultural. They didn't need cultural references in this movie.
No.
They just felt out of place.
No.
You got Gene Hackman with his dog, which is like the only redemptive quality he had as a character.
So I tried looking up if there are mascots on U.S. submarines, if that's even a thing. I mean, you're sucking air when you have a dog on there.
Right, and then he let one of them pee on the side of the boat.
Where does he shit? Basically, where does he poop on the board? And then what happens when they do a crash dive? I just saw that poor dog sliding.
Here's what happened when they do a crash dive. It's the same thing as every time Gene Hackman gets on the phone to make an announcement. They cut to this random person, this random person, this random person. I didn't know who any of these people are. At the end of the movie, he was like, you need to get Weps. Who is Weps? And I was like, oh, Viggo Mortensen.
You brought up a good point. So the supporting cast in this, I mean, in the background, you have some great actors. Right. Viggo Mortensen. You also have James Gandolfini. Just randomly hanging out in the background. So a good casting. I mean, there are great people behind this movie.
Steve Zahn was in that movie too. Yes. Rick Schroeder.
Yes.
I mean, not a great actor, but you know who he is.
Composer Hans Zimmer. Doing a very conventional score for him.
Right.
Very conventional. It's the 90s. He hasn't gotten into his crazy, outlandish kind of
definitely, yeah.
Every time there's a sub on the screen, you have that choral, like, oh.
Right.
It's like this mystical sub.
Right, yes.
Coming on the ethos. We have Hans Zimmer. We have Jerry Bruckheimer. As soon as I saw that credit, I'm like, I'm in. I'm all in. In a world produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. I mean, the guy gave us Armageddon.
All those wonderful Transformers movies.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
The Rock.
I think he gave us Flashdance, too.
Did he?
He did.
Gave us Flashdance. Wow, what a feeling.
So, Overall, a good movie. I would say I loved submarine movies growing up, and I mean, if it was U-571, Das Boat, A Hunt for the Red October, a much better film. And I can see why 10-year-old Derek was like, I'm good. I don't need to see this. A lot of drama and 2 minutes of action when they're fighting that Russian sub.
I've never seen this movie before.
Me neither. Never
Until
saw it.
2 nights ago when I sat down and watched it, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not entirely convinced why so many people loved it, but it was good. I mean, the moments of tension were great between the two actors. There were just little things that pulled me out of it.
Okay.
You know, and so solid B. So I'd recommend it.
B-. Like, if it's on in the background, I'll watch it. I thought the ending was a little too happy. Like, in what world would the Navy say, oh, take an early retirement?
Right.
You almost blew up the world, and the guy that is your arch enemy through the entire thing is like, you know what? He deserves a sub of his own. He
deserves a sub of his own, and that's supposed to redeem Gene Hackman's character? I'm sorry, I don't think so.
No.
I mean, seriously, not to borrow a line from our other movie, but I could just feel... I felt like a character from Clueless watching this movie. Like, this makes no sense whatsoever.
And there's several tropes that you have with any military movie, especially with like technical submarine warfare, because you have to explain it to the audience.
Right, yes.
Right. You always have that character who has to play the idiot and ask the question so somebody else on screen can answer it. It's like, well, why do we have to get 1,000 yards away? And they're in the middle of the battle scene, and then you have an explanation like, well, we got to get 1,000 yards away so that we can arm the torpedoes to blow them up.
Right.
You idiot.
Right.
How did you even get in the Navy? So
it's very much so. A little discombobulated would be my question.
Good score, good CGI.
Great acting.
Poor dialogue choices.
Yes.
But still a fun watch. Does it hold up?
I definitely think that it holds up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it holds up.
Yeah.
So a little, let's say, major transition here. We're going from Crimson Tide to
Clueless, which is like the happiest movie ever.
Another great dialogue tie-in. Cher refers to her menstrual cycle as a crimson wave.
Yes, she does. Clueless is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I could not tell.
And I have to say that when I sat down to watch it again, normally I just have it on in the background because I know what's going on, and I rewatched it and sat down and actually watched every frame of it, and it still is one of the greatest comedies, teen movies ever. Not that I don't have some problems with it, but it is
pleasantly surprised. So I sat down. I've never seen it from beginning to end. It was on TV in reruns. I've seen a lot of scenes. I've probably seen 80% of this movie. So I went in knowing that there was some good writing, right? And the entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, man, this is like Fast Times at Ridgemont High for the 90s, and then realizing that it's the same.
Yeah. Amy Heckerling did both, yes.
All the 90s tropes. We have
totally.
A Mentos commercial.
Mentos.
Whatever. The whole thing is in there.
Yes.
Like, we literally have a character singing that through the whole thing. We have... what other? We have the mall scenes. We have the montage. I mean, the mall montage right up front.
The first fashion montages where Cher's trying on all of her new clothes, which you see in a lot of romantic comedies these days.
Was that the first? I
would say it was the first one, but I would say that's one of the more memorable ones. I think when people think about Clueless, they think of that first scene where she's picking out her school clothes.
Yeah, well, on the computer.
Right, on the computer and stuff. I mean, there was a video game like that I remember playing that my sister had growing up, where you would like go to the mall and pick out your school clothes and stuff for your characters and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I played it once or twice. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
You know, Clueless is just a fantastic movie, and more than anything, it's quotable.
Oh my gosh, the quotes.
I mean, if you think about all the great quotes that you get out of that movie, the sheer naivete of the characters, but also how sincere they are in that naivete, I think makes it very appealing for people to watch.
And much smarter than I remembered it being.
Like, totally, yes, definitely.
Who's the skater? His last name's Birkenstock.
Travis
Birkenstock. So he has this line, he's like, yeah, I realized that the way I feel about the Rolling Stones is the way
my kids are going to feel about Nine Inch Nails.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense, and there's a lot of, when you think about their friendships, and it is based loosely on Jane Austen's Emma. And so I know a lot of people have a lot of like issues with the whole like Cher getting together with her stepbrother Josh.
Nothing wrong with
at
Paul
the
Rudd.
end, but they're not stepbrothers sisters anymore. Like, you know, their parents have divorced and stuff. But I just think that, you know, when I think of like some of the funniest lines is when Cher writes Shakespeare to a note for her teacher, and she goes, and Dion goes, "Did you write that?" She goes, "That's a famous quote from Cliff's Notes." I mean, how many
Cliff's
students?
Notes.
Yeah.
And then she calls out Paul Rudd's girlfriend in the car.
Right.
Saying, I don't read Shakespeare, but
I remember Mel Gibson, and
like
he
Mel
did not say that in Hamlet.
witty dialogue.
Completely.
Very, you know, it's corny moments. I was really impressed. I mean, Alicia Silverstone is 19 years old when this movie comes out.
Yes.
So I was expecting most of the cast, like we see in Scream, being played by 24 and 12.
Yeah,
25
definitely,
years.
yeah.
She holds her own and is a much better actress than I remember her being. She's good.
Yes, she's very good in that role, and I think that she got bad opportunities after Clueless to really show what she could do.
Batman Forever.
Batman and Robin.
Or is it Batman?
Yeah, Excess Baggage, I believe is what it was called. And she just didn't... She's a comedian. I mean, she's hysterically funny in this movie.
She plays a ditzy character, but in a way that you can relate to them, and she's practical. Like, she's a very practical female lead in this.
Correct, yes, very much so.
Cool, and then her stepbrother. Let's talk about Paul Rudd's character.
I mean, Paul Rudd, I mean, he's just, like, the most lovable goofball we have in cinema these days, I feel like.
But at the same time, like, I was like, he's listening to Radiohead, he's reading Nietzsche, he's
right.
in law school, he wants to be an environmental lawyer, like...
Right. They might get Marky Mark to sign a tree.
Is it... I thought it was plant a celebrity.
Plant a celebrity tree. Yes, plant a celebrity tree.
I'm like, the grammar on that. But whatever.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Still good. I say it holds up.
I definitely think Clueless holds up.
Not biased at all.
Not biased at all. It holds up.
It does hold up. I came in from not really watching this movie a lot and not having, I guess, the memories and the nostalgia that you have for this movie.
Totally, completely.
So thumbs up, holds up. Clueless. It's
go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Crimson Tide. Yes, go watch it.
Go watch it if you like movies like that, and you can. I would say start 25 minutes into Crimson Tide, and you've got a really great movie.
So that was our banter for Crimson Tide
and Clueless.
After kind of going through it, we'll probably have a more structured approach to the next few episodes. Consider this episode 0. And come back next week. What do we have coming up in 2 weeks, actually?
In 2 weeks, we will have Kevin Smith's Mallrats.
Classic.
And we will have Jumanji, the original Robin Williams Jumanji.
With the CGI monkeys that are to die for.
Yes. Great special effects.
So thanks for sticking around to the end, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, see you later.
Today on Stack and Mac, in the immortal words of Kirk Douglas, we're gonna have ourselves a gut-busting, mother-loving Navy war.
Crimson Tide.